And we're live here in Nourish, Heal, and Thrive. Another exciting interview for you today. We have Dan Stillman. He's the founder of Heal Hub Advisors, and he's going to tell us all about that. But thanks for being here, Dan.
Oh, thank you for having me, Derek. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
So, my name is Dan Stillman. I'm 55 years old. I live in Westfield, New Jersey. I grew up in North Brunswick, New Jersey. And, I am a certified integrative nutrition health coach, also certified positive psychology practitioner, transformational mindset worker as well. I'm also certified in yoga as well. And I have, three different brands that I'm working on currently. So I have Heal Hub Advisors, which you introduced me as. I also have another brand called Holistic Wellcare Advisors, which will be coming out later this year. It's let's say betterhelp.com for holistic services. And then I also have another brand called Yomenga, which is the word meant in between the word yoga, exclusive care for the everyday man, that when I get into my story, I had to put on the sideline because of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. You're doing so much. That's pretty amazing. So I don't know, how did you get into doing all this?
Well, my career that I went to school for was IT. But, when I was growing up, at a very early age, I had some stomach issues when I was 4. So back in 1974, they really didn't know, what was going on with me. I guess the technology wasn't as good until the 1990s when they were able to do a little more to find out exactly what was going on. So I was put on medication at a very young age, some very strong medication, which helped. But, it kind of developed, I guess, PTSD for me at a very young age because I would always walk around saying that I had a bad stomach, right? And I also was raised in a pretty contentious situation with some abandonment, some shame that I had to deal with, some bullying as a child, dealing with a lot of anti-Semitism growing up in a blue collar town and being the only Jewish person there. I experienced a lot of like anti-Semitism. And my mom is 5 foot, my dad is 5'4", so I was always the shortest kid. So I got picked on a lot. And dealing with, my mother who, back in the 70s, the spankings were like the thing back then. And not so much today. Like the things that I think I went through back then, DYFS would have been at the front door, saying, okay, you can't do this. So, when between the ages of 0 and 7, you develop these beliefs, and I had these beliefs. I'm not good enough. What's wrong with me? I did something wrong. Why don't people like me? And it was hard growing up with those beliefs. I mean, I guess one of the benefits of, I guess, going through those experiences was it got me to start lifting weights like at 11 years old and really learning how to protect myself by doing that. So that helped a lot with my anxiety. But between the stomach issues and dealing with, those, I like to say unintelligent beliefs, it was difficult. Like I really didn't love myself. I didn't really understand a lot of the things that were happening to me. And I always felt different as a child to the point where, I'm 14 years old and I'm reading books on Deepak Chopra. I'm watching on PBS Wayne Dyer specials. Bought the Tony Robbins cassette tape. So I think it was always innate in me to want to learn and become better, a better person and go the self-development route. But when I went through my teenage years, and I did normal things like kids, I played baseball, I wrestled, I did the things that people normal childhood would do. Except, for me, whenever I would experience adversity, the one thing I think that kept me going and not going down like the wrong path of like doing like some really hardcore drugs or, I smoked pot as a kid and drank, but nothing like really tremendous that would have led me down like a really bad path. Thank God I didn't go that way was always looking in the mirror and telling myself, you're capable of so much more. And maybe that was because I was reading the books and it just was innate in me. And when I turned 22, that's when everything came to a head and I was able to like go to therapy for 4 years. And I thought maybe at that time I had a drinking problem too, because even though I wasn't drinking every day, I would drink on the weekends where I drink too much and I'd black out, right? Like I was doing too much. And I remember specifically, like I was going into the Air Force when I was 22 to continue my education in IT. And unfortunately, after 3 weeks, they let me go because of on during Desert Storm, there's a lot of dust on the sand and people had to be shipped out because of breathing problems. And they never tested me for like asthma. And they said that I had like mild reactive airway disease because they give you immunization shots and I had a cough and I came back and that was my bottom. And I remember getting down on my hands and knees and praying to God and I'm saying, God, please help me. I don't know why you made me this way that I have to feel everything because I always felt like everything emotionally and I had a dream that night and my grandparents came to me and on a train and they said to me, Dan, your soul's been enriched. We love you. Everything's going to be okay. And I woke up the next morning and I knew two people who went into Alcoholics Anonymous and I went into AA. I just decided like I need to do something with my life. I need to change that. And while I was in AA for 4 years, and my parents were divorced when I was four, so it was, I was an only child. So my dad, I didn't really get the mentoring from men that I really should have gotten and got bit by some of those myths of masculinity that a lot of men suffer from where you don't express your feelings, man up, all those different types of, I'd say, myths of masculinity. And so when I went into AA, I got mentored by a lot of men, right? Like I really took, instead of 4 years of going into the Air Force, it was 4 years of healing trauma, right? I was able to heal my trauma. I was still dealing with some of my stomach issues when I turned 26, while I was between 1992 and 1996. That's when my stomach issues came back, and I was able to find out that I had a blockage, and they thought I had Crohn's disease, and I didn't. I was born with an extra loop, like in my intestines, called the Meckel's diverticulum. I also had something called lymphatic hyperplasia, which was a blockage between my small intestine and my large intestine, and that was removed. But I still struggled with the stomach issues while I was dealing with healing all this other trauma, which I was able to do. I was able to confront like my mother, my aunt and uncle for abandoning us, my dad for not really being part of my life. Like I really dove in deep and was able to heal that trauma, which I truly believe people really need to do in order to live a flourishing life. And so I went through this some issues, but I was still dealing with some issues. Little did I know, I didn't know anything about leaky gut, SIBO, how important your microbiome is, and all, as far as your immune system, 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. Just a lot of different things, insulin resistance, a lot of things that we know now. Back then, in 1990s, it was all like woo-woo. And so I had my gallbladder taken out as a result of continued stomach issues. I developed like heartburn and some other reflux issues that I had to deal with. Even though like my mental state, my emotional state was more stable based on, healing the trauma, I was still affected because your brain and gut are connected. And I didn't realize that. Little did I know that all the ultra processed foods that I was eating contributed to some of these things. And now we know a lot of how that disrupts your ecosystem. And so when I turned 36, or 38, I found functional medicine. And when I found functional medicine, I was able to heal a lot of the things that traditional medicine couldn't because they were even though I had heartburn, it was always like a Band-Aid fix. Here's some proton pump inhibitors. Oh, you have a reactivation of Epstein-Barr. That's why you have chronic fatigue. Oh, your rashes. Here's some cream. That's something else. Just take that. So little did I know, like all these things that I had, which was leaky gut and dysbiosis and SIBO, were contributing and causing these autoimmune conditions that I didn't even know even existed. And through a comprehensive stool test, learning about, food sensitivities, learning that I did have the gene for celiac, going on a supplement program for 8 to 12 weeks, even longer. Probably the full course took 6 months. I lost 15 pounds, even though I wasn't, I was still working out and I ate somewhat right, but I was still eating bread and pizza and things like that. It was more of like the inflammation of 15 pounds came off of me rather than like the weight. Of course, I did, I was able to, shed some fat, but I think the majority of it was like just the inflammation piece of it. And so that's when I really dove deep into the microbiome, like really learning about like what its function is and how it's related or how it's attached to your HPA axis, your hypothalamus, your pituitary, your adrenals, and how that's connected to your second brain, which is your enteric nervous system, which is your gut, and how your enteric nervous system is connected to your central nervous system. The communication pathway is your vagus nerves, your spine, right? From the gut into the brain. And then I was always more interested in like positive and more psychology. So I got, introduced to positive psychology and I never even heard of positive psychology, which is the study of human flourishing. And so I was able to like, once I was immersed into this certification course about positive psychology, things just started to click for me. And then I got certified in yoga as well, because my spiritual foundation was starting to really blossom. It was like everything, my spiritual, my intellectual, my emotional and physical well-being, as I was learning these different tools, concepts, and things started to like elevate and I was starting to become introduced to the higher self that I really never knew existed. And so, once I really learned like a lot of concepts and tools about positive psychology, I was like, wow, like these are all things we should have learned like in our early to late teens, early 20s that would have really helped us in our 20s make some really important decisions. Because once you turn 30, you're like, okay, where do I want to live? Do I want to get married? What do I want to have kids? And through relationships as well, like that's when I learned about boundaries and when you get into a relationship, you really learn a lot about yourself. And truly what it boiled down to was that during this whole process, I was learning to love myself, like authentically, because that was the key was learning to love myself authentically without shame, number one, and not really worrying about what other people thought of me and being able to apply like the 9 ingredients of love that when I was 22 I came up with, which are sincerity, courtesy, unselfishness, patience, tolerance, humility, good temper, generosity, and being guileless, and being able to like read those and move them from my head to my heart, understanding that your heart has its own memory, its own brain, its own sensory neurites really. um and learn how to like start thinking with my heart instead of so much from my head, and learning how to become my own cognitive based therapist and learn what a habit is, what growth versus fixed mindset is, what's nonviolent communication, a lot of different things that people don't have the skill set to do. So that kind of brought me to where I am now, like, and that's how I got to where I am.
Wow, that's an amazing journey. I really appreciate you sharing that. It's crazy. So, even from a young age, you kind of had this self-awareness, about yourself, and you were doing those, you said Deepak Chopra and like Tony Robbins, and you were kind of getting into the, self-help kind of arena. And I don't think many, kids, you said at 14 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think many people at that age are really kind of thinking about, the personal growth area. So that's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
it was pretty yeah, a lot of people like asked me about that and I wish that I would have gotten the guidance back then. Like, because when I graduated high school, I took a year off. Like, I really, during my teenage years, I didn't apply myself. Like, if I wanted to apply myself, I would have got straight A's. But because of the insecurities that I had and like I just didn't think people liked me. Like I really walked around a lot with that belief that I did something wrong and that people didn't like me. And I can remember my friends like telling me, like, when we go to a party or like they would keep their distance from me because the other people would be like, what's wrong with him? He always looks so sad. Like I
Mm,
was always like sad, and it wasn't a good way to like really live your life. And even though like I lifted weights, and did exercising, it wasn't coming from a place from inside outward. It was coming from a place of outward inward because I wanted people to see what I look like and that I looked good
right.
instead of me feeling good and doing, expressing it the other way. So it was a huge transition for me, you
Wow.
know?
Yeah. And then you said you came up with your 9 pillars of love.
Yeah, then when I was 22,
You're
when I first
22.
when I went into AA, that's when I copyrighted the 9 ingredients of love because I knew like I needed to learn to love myself. And so I wrote down these 9 ingredients of love, what love meant for me, and I hung them on my refrigerator and I read them morning, noon, and night, right? I also wrote, some other things like 21 points to ponder and a lot of like poems and things like that, like just to kind of help me. And gratitude lists to, be grateful for what I had and just to kind of like change, like, I teach people about neuroplasticity. I didn't know what neuroplasticity was, but little did I know I was actually doing it with deliberate practice. And that's another thing that I teach people in my Get Real, Deal, and Heal course is, I was using deliberate practice to change and build new neural pathways to shed the old ones, which were those negative beliefs that I'm not good enough or
Mm,
what's wrong with me or I did something wrong to I am worthy. People do like me. But it took deliberate practice of reading those 9 ingredients of love, like reading the 21 points to ponder, the gratitude list to like shed, even though like those old neural pathways will always be there, they're just small. And I had to develop the new neural pathways, which are the good thoughts, the good things, so that way, I was living in that world and not the other world. It doesn't mean that I don't get triggered every now and then. I'm pretty good at it now. Like nothing really bothers me. But still, if you're tired or you don't feel well, you'll have a crazy thought pop into your head, but that's not you. Your thoughts aren't your thoughts. But still, it's like they'll always be there. But now, once you build new neural pathways, you can never unlearn those neural pathways. And you have to do things in order to, strengthen those like every single day. But once you get to a point where it becomes a habit, right? Because it all comes down to habit. What is a habit? A cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue is always going to stay the same. The routine has to change, and the reward could be better or it could be the same. It's like if somebody wanted to quit smoking cigarettes, but the cue was the alarm clock at 7 o'clock a.m. You always have to wake up for work. But the routine is once that alarm clock goes off, they reach for a cigarette on their night table, light it up, and then the reward is, a nice nicotine high or whatever. Well, in order to change that, the cue is still going to be the same because you always have to wake up at 7 o'clock. But instead of having your cigarettes on the night table, maybe you put your toothbrush and toothpaste and maybe a nicotine patch because you have to slowly wean yourself off the nicotine. Or maybe some people are good at doing a cold turkey. And the reward is you have fresh, minty breath. But that's only going to change if you do it over and over and over and over again to like reinforce and build that new neural pathway. So, that's what I teach and a lot with what I do, besides healing their guts with doing comprehensive gut testing for leaky gut, SIBO, dysbiosis. So it's not only like when I'm working with clients, am I just healing their gut? I'm also putting them through the course so they could have long-lasting change.
Yeah, that's great. So tell us a little bit more about, your clientele, the people that come to you and kind of what the outcome is after they work with you.
Yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of different people. Mostly now I've rebranded to Heal Hub Advisors because I had to separate the holistic Wellcare Advisors off for the subscription program platform that I'm building. Now I focus more on like entrepreneurs, CEOs, founders, people of that nature because the main thing that they're struggling with is energy. A lot of them are struggling, and I mostly deal with women now because most women are more receptive to the things that I'm doing. And, one of the things with that I found, even though I would consider I wouldn't say I'm an exception to the rule based on what, I was really young when I think, again, innately just born this way. Men still struggle a little bit with wanting to change. Women are kind of more receptive based on the research that I've done. And, it's unfortunate. We want to get more men on board to like really understand that vulnerability isn't a weakness and that, women want men to be vulnerable and express their feelings and do those things. And until that happens, right now, I'm more focusing on women. Not that I don't focus, because I do have the other brand for men, Yomenga, which I'm going to go back to eventually because I want to help men as well. But I mostly focus on women, and their outcomes are pretty tremendous. Like, once we do the gut testing and we see what's going on there, whether they have dysbiosis, leaky gut, I'd say 95, 98% of the people I work with who I do gut testing either have leaky gut and dysbiosis together or definitely have dysbiosis. And dysbiosis, just for people who are listening, may not know what that means. It's the best way I could give an analogy would be if you are in a tropical rainforest, visualize a tropical rainforest, and there's an ecosystem there. So there's a balance, like each animal and each plant, like everything has its balance. And if one of those particular, let's just say animals dies, let's just say all the snakes die, right? For some reason, it throws off the whole ecosystem and that'll totally collapse the ecosystem. Well, dysbiosis is the same thing. You have more bugs and viruses and fungi and archines in your gut and in your skin and all over, then you have cells in your body. So if you have too much of a certain species or too less, not enough of, it throws off the ecosystem. And what happens is your microbiome really produces these metabolites, these proteins that actually help, regulate your metabolic processes. So people could be obese because they haven't taken care of their gut and they don't have the right species. Their immune system could be not functioning properly. Insulin resistance is a huge thing. A lot of different things. Your microbiome, 90% of your serotonin, your neurotransmitters are produced in your gut. So, like, if you're not taking care of these things, then you have issues. But, with my Get Real Deal and Heal course, like when I put people through my programs, I'm doing meal plans. I'm giving them WhatsApp access to me 24 by 7. I'm doing meal plans, elimination diets. I'm putting them on a supplement program based on the test results. But more importantly, are the things that I was discussing earlier about going through my Get Real Deal and Heal course, which is a 72 lesson online course that's going to teach you about self-centered fear, unrealistic expectations, perfectionism, gratitude, living in the moment, and loving yourself, along with a transformational toolkit that's going to help you have these long-lasting, sustain the long-lasting change because you have to, it's about lifestyle. Like I want to help someone introduce themselves to their higher self they never knew existed. And, so that's why I kind of inject myself into other people's modalities. Like I'll work with nutritionists. Nutritionists are great because they're teaching you meal plans and helping you eat properly. But if they don't have the mindset piece baked into their programs, how are they going to have long-lasting changes if you don't teach them what a habit is? On the mental health side, for like a mental health provider, we are causing an obesity problem, unfortunately. And I'm not against medications. We need medications and we need trauma care, traditional medicine, but they holistic and traditional need to play nicely in the sandbox together. And if 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut, let's work with the mental health providers to say, okay, while you're helping someone with trauma, let's do comprehensive gut testing. Let's see if they have dysbiosis. Let's give them psychobiotics to help them while you're helping them mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, wow. So you have this whole like all-inclusive program that just like it's like mind, body, and spirit almost all together.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to teach people, I don't like to try, some people don't like the woo-woo spirituality, but
Yeah.
I'm really like using scientific based evidence, and you could look this up on PubMed, like the National Library of Science. Like this is like everything that I do is based on science, but it's also saying, okay, listen, think about it. You have a synergistic relationship. This is a meat suit. You have a synergistic relationship not only with, the bugs in your body that you have to, take care of, but your body is also energy, right? How does your heart beat? It's through a bundle branch system, right? That's electricity. How do people start hearts when they stop? They use electricity. It's like we have energy and we have bugs. So you have to look at this, who you are as like a meat suit that or a space suit that you're in, that is helping you survive in this 3D world. So I don't try, it depends on the person I'm working with who if whether I could be more spiritual or less spiritual. So it really kind of depends.
Cool. Wow. We've talked about so much in just a short time. Is there anything that you didn't get to talk about that you'd like to share?
I think it's really for people who may be listening to this or are going to watch this, that if you're in a place where you are struggling, I just want you to know that you're not alone. And I want to commend you for watching this. And I hope that you take the first step in really making sure that you can like introduce yourself to your higher self that you never knew existed. And that can happen at any age. You could be 65, 70 and still not learn concepts that probably should have been taught. And you might have 20 more years of your life where you're going to be like, wow, holy crap, I'm so glad I changed, right? And I really want people to understand that if you're dealing with some type of trauma, to really try and get some help. Get some help because it's very difficult to do it alone. You could even like hurt yourself more if try to do it yourself where you read books and that may trigger something, right? Because that could cause even worse damage for yourself. So it's always good to get somebody who can like help you. Another thing that I do that's part of my process or on my website healhubadvisors.com is I have webinars. So I have a meetup group as well. So I do virtual meetups I invite guest speakers to come on from in the holistic space to do webinars. They're usually on a Thursday from 7 to 8:30. And I have over close to 2,200 members and you could learn for free. Like educate yourself by coming to these different, like, of course, Derek, you're doing a great thing by putting together these wonderful, like I like to say, like webinars or broadcasts to teach and educate people. But you as an individual have to be accountable and put the work in. So there's so many resources today in the everyday world that you could utilize to, help yourself become a better person.
Yeah, wow. Wow. And you mentioned your website. Is there any other, how else can people get a hold of you if they want to?
Well, I'm on all the social media. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. So if people want to go there, I also wrote a book, and the title is called "You're Capable of So Much More" because I said that 50 million times as a kid. It's "You're capable of so much more. Get real, deal, and heal." So it has more of my life story. I couldn't tell you everything because of the time purposes, but the first chapter is really telling you how I evolved. And then the next chapters in the book are a abbreviated version of my Get Real Deal and Heal course. So people who go on Amazon, if you're a Spotify member, premium member, you could listen to it for free as well. So if people are interested in it, it's also an audiobook. So that's another way that people could find out more about what I do.
Awesome. So we're going to have you put all your links in the comments here so people can connect with you really quickly and easily. I really appreciate your time here and you doing this. Any final words you want to leave everyone with?
No, I think we covered it all.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah.
Thanks, Derek, for having me. I guess that's what I want to end with is thank you for having me on your show, and I really appreciate what you're doing. Keep it
Yeah.
up. Great
Great.
work.
Thank you. Yeah, we really appreciated having you here and we'll have you come back. And anyone that's watching, if you resonate with Dan and you want to connect with Dan, then he's going to put his links here in the comments so you can connect with him. And if you like what we're doing here at Nourish, Heal, and Thrive, just comment interview and we'll get you spotlighted so you can share your story, share your gifts, or even if you're struggling, we can get you the support you need. So thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you at the next one.